Hello, Lapeer, Michigan. How are you? My name is Dr. Adam Saenz, coming to you from the very hot state of Texas. Man, we've had a summer like no other, but it's great to be with you virtually. I actually get to be indoors in the AC. We did get some rain yesterday. That was quite a relief. Now, before I go any further, um, if you could, Bradford, say, Adam, we see you and we hear you. I just want to make sure that our audio and video look good. So you can give me a thumbs up or whatever feels good, just to let me know that we're good
It
to go.
works.
Yeah, here, you know what? Round of applause for technology. That's awesome. Okay, good deal. There we go. Now I'm at the right camera. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. Let me get right over to the PowerPoint here. And tonight I'm talking about establishing good routines at home. So, as a licensed psychologist, people ask me all the time, "Hey, Dr. Science, what's one thing I can do to help my kids?" And you think like, well, you know, education is important. Yes, it is. Nutrition is important. Yes, it is. Those things are important, but we just don't think of how important having a regular routine is. I don't have time to go into the sort of the neuropsychology of it all, but we as kids or as adults, we do best when we have predictable, consistent patterns in our life. That calms us, it soothes us because we know what to expect. On the other hand, when we live a life where there's a lot of changes and going back and forth, that can be really, really disruptive to us at a core level. It produces anxiety. So again, what's one thing I can do to help my child? I mean, yes, school is great, nutrition is great, plenty of things are great, but having a good routine at home is so important. So that's me as a psychologist giving this answer. And let me say, so let me show you a picture here real quick. I knew most about, hold on. I knew most about parenting. I've been practicing for 25 years now. I knew the most about parenting before I had kids. That's when I knew the most. And then after my first kid, man, I got humbled. So there's my family now. We're empty nesters. And so, hallelujah, thank God we made it. Someone once said that the toughest thing of the what was it? The first 28 years of parenting are the hardest. That's what it was. The first 20. And so my oldest is 24 and we still feel like we're doing some work as parents. So anyway, all of that is to say, yes, I have clinical expertise as a psychologist, but I also have history as a parent. And man, Lord knows I've made my share of mistakes and my wife has made her share of mistakes. So I come to you both clinically and as a parent who has made some mistakes. So this is the agenda. This is what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to talk about, I should say. What are habits? Why do they matter? How do they form? What are some good habits and bad habits? And then conclusions. And hopefully I see that we've got some folks on the call. We will have a chance to do some Q&A there towards the end. So that's awesome. And feel free to drop your questions in the chat as well if you want to do that along the way. So if anything comes up, then you can put your question in the chat, and then at the very end, you can unmute and then ask me as well. So let's jump right in. A habit is a behavior that is learned, that is repeated, and it's automatic. So basically, it's something you have done so much you don't even have to think about it, like breathing and walking. Just things that you've been doing those for a long time, and you don't have to worry about that. Oh, I see that the chat is disabled. I don't know how to enable, but you can use the Q&A. Thank you for letting me know. So that's what a habit is, and we've got a lot of them. So do I know my own habits? Like, your habits around time. What time do you wake up? What time do you go to bed? Around food, when do you eat? What do you eat? How much coffee do you drink? What's your favorite sweet? How much sugar do you have? Those are all habits that most of us don't think about. Your hygiene, when do you take a bath? When do you brush your teeth? And then what are your bad habits? There's smoking as an example, but what other bad habits? Do you have a bad habit of maybe being critical? I have a bad habit of of being hyperactive and not resting enough. So, we all got them. But do I know them? That's the question. We're trying to reflect on that. And so you see here just some images, like all of these habits, like you see up in the top right hand corner here. If you yell or I yell a lot at home, it's probably a habit. I don't even realize that I'm raising my voice. How often am I reaching for my phone? Again, that's a habit. When do we eat as a family? All habits. What kind of food do we eat? Do we monitor how much sugar we're intaking? So those are all examples of habits. Why do they matter? Well, as crazy as it sounds, habits make up 40% of what we do every day. And so over time, they lead us to some destination. So that's what's staggering to me about that. 40% of my behavior, by definition, I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. I'm not even aware of all of these things. Yet 40% of my behavior, it's going to end me up somewhere. So that's why it's so good for us to think about, hey, where am I headed with this habit of yelling, or this habit of exercise, or this habit of not monitoring my sugar, or this habit of praying, or whatever it might be. Now let's move forward. How do they form? Well, it's just something that we do. We start off doing something, here. We repeat it. And then over time, eventually, there you go. You got the habit. But, there are things we do. There was the first time for everyone, if you have a habit of smoking, there was the first time you took a cigarette. It wasn't a habit at that point. It was a first time thing. If you grab your phone, there was a time where you didn't always have your phone in your hand, but eventually that, over time you practice it and it became a habit. So that's how they form. It's just one action that we repeat over time, and boom, we have a habit. So how do they start? A lot of times with the children, with our kids at home, they learn by example. They watch us, they watch our family members, they watch their peers, and they watch others. And so in psychobabble, we refer to that as social referencing. How do kids learn? They just look, they see what's being modeled around them. And so that's a big part of how habits are learned, is what we model for them. Kids imitate much of what they observe at home. And I didn't really get that until my kids started being 2 and 3 and 4 years old, and they would say things that were inappropriate. And I was the only one in the house that ever said those inappropriate things. Like one time, just to be perfectly transparent, my daughter at the age of 5 announced that the cat's litter box, and this was her phrase, she said, she came in and announced to the family, the litter box smells like butt. Where'd she learn that? From her psychologist dad. That's where she learned it from. I mean, who am I trying to kid? So yeah, kids imitate much of what they observe, much of what they hear. So here's just an illustration of that. How do you manage to make yours read? And well, she's reading. So that's how that goes. And so then we have to ask ourselves, how often are we modeling the sorts of behaviors that we want to see in our children? So if we value exercise and we want to promote that behavior in our children, we have to ask, well, when was the last time my child saw me exercise? If we want our children to limit their screen time, we have to ask, when was the last time my child said, I'm taking a vacation from my social media, from my phone. I'm going to turn it off and put it away, and I'll pick it up tomorrow. So it's just a powerful question to ask as a parent. And then goodwill will align with our goals and values. Good habits will align with our goals and values. So again, we tend to prioritize what we value. And if we really value time together, it becomes a habit. If we really value exercise, then that becomes a habit. But if we don't value it, it probably won't become a habit. So how do we nurture good habits? Ideally, we start early with our young ones. And you see in that image there, there's there's a child brushing their teeth with their dad, it looks like. And yeah, start them early and then incorporate the behavior into a routine. So we're going to take a shower, we're going to brush our teeth, we're going to get our pajamas on, or in the morning, we're going to take a shower, we're going to brush our teeth, and we're going to get our school clothes on. Then we're going to get our backpack ready. So you chain it. You start with one, but then Okay, we're going to brush our teeth. Now we're going to take a shower. Now we're going to get dressed. Now we're going to get our backpack. We're going to eat breakfast and we're going to go. And so it's like a habit of 5 things that you do every morning, but you practice, practice, practice. And then make it positive. I'm sorry, there you go. Make it positive. What I did as a parent and still do when I'm not mindful is like, come on, hurry up. You know you're supposed to do it. And I just get like an attitude when I'm talking to my kids. And the more we can make it positive, like, hey, good job. You got into the bathroom. Awesome. You're off to a great start. Just any little thing we see them doing correct, reinforce it, praise it. And, looking back, I'm sure I didn't do enough of that in making it positive. And then repetition over time, it's going to happen automatically. And so another mistake I made is I would tell my kids when they were too young, I would say, starting off, like, listen, I got to get ready for work. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, get your backpack ready, have breakfast, and meet me back here in 13 minutes. For a 6-year-old, that's just way too much. And so I would just overload them and they wouldn't get it done. And then I would get frustrated, like, are you still doing that? You were supposed to blah, blah, blah. And I was just giving them too much information. It was overload. Rather than starting small and then building and building and building over maybe the first 6 weeks of the school year, so that maybe by late September, early October, then they've got that whole sequence of events down. But I just didn't practice it the right way. But repetition over time brings the behavior about it's called automaticity. Now, these are some healthy habits for our kids. Like meals, breakfast every morning. Having meals as a family is a great thing when possible. Nutritious food, incorporating fruits and veggies. For example, replacing, if you can, chips with carrot chips, or sliced carrots, some kind of fruit or veggies. And then around activities and schedule, daily physical activities, going for a walk, playing in the backyard, limiting screen time, having, like, maybe you say from 6:30 to 7:30, you can be on your screen, or from 6 to 7, or whenever you finish your homework. And then incorporating reading and say, we're going to read for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then an early bedtime as consistently as possible. Those are all examples of healthy habits for our kids. Unhealthy habits, it's kind of the opposite. Clinging to screens, they always have to have a device. And I would say, one thing if possible is just take the media. Don't let your kid have it in bed with them, because that's often just the light, physically the light of a screen itself stimulate it. So I don't have time to go into a lot of the neuropsychology, but our brain is trained that when things get dark, it automatically activates. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. That means rest and digest. And it's like a brake pedal. But if there's a bright screen in front of me, that light tells my brain it's still daylight outside. And instead of staying in the rest and digest, I stay in what's called fight or flight, which keeps me active. So it's so much better to take a book into bed than it is to take a phone or a screen or a tablet. It's okay to use tablets, right? But just say, look, have your tablet in the living room and we'll do 30 minutes of you can watch a movie or play or whatever. But we're going to transition now. And for 15 minutes, you're going to go to bed, pick a book, take a book and or a magazine or something. But you're not going to go to bed and watch YouTube videos or anything like that, because that's just going to keep you from getting to sleep. All right. Eating while watching videos, that's another bad habit, because so let's say you're watching a video and you say, I'm going to grab a snack, I'm going to get a bag of chips. Well, you're not paying attention to how much you eat, and you're watching a video and you start eating, and the next thing you know, the whole bag is gone. And that can become a habit. And then you start training your stomach that it needs a whole bag of chips to feel satisfied. Going to bed late, that's another not healthy habit. Okay. So let's move forward then. So what do we do then? We want to how to change them, identify the behavior you want to change, and be specific about that. Like you can't just say, stay off your phone, stay off the video games. Like, that's a great big picture, but you need to specifically say, like, the goal is for you to be used. You can play video games for 45 minutes. That, like, you have to be real specific about it. And that way you can measure it and if you're actually making progress. And then modify the environment to facilitate the new habit. So what does that mean? That means that so you've got to find, it's called a replacement behavior. So if you're saying, let's say your child spends an hour and a half on playing Xbox every night, and you're like, oh, I want to reduce that. I got to be specific. I want to cut it down to 45 minutes. Well, the question is, well, what's he going to do with the other 45 minutes? Or is she going to do with the other 45 minutes? It's like, okay, I'm bored. Well, that's where modifying the environment means have books available, have activities available, have a menu of things they can do instead. You can go for a walk, you can play with the dog, you can do a puzzle, you can draw, you can read a comic book, whatever it might be. So modifying the environment means just that. It means having other things available that make it very easy. Again, replacement behaviors. So modify the environment, use every opportunity to practice
I'm
and
on this, but I'm gonna go for a walk.
and what that means is when we talk about um, use every opportunity to practice, that means you're not just telling them like, hey, shut it off. You're doing it with them. Let's shut this off, and I want you to come with me, and we're going to go for a walk. I want you to come with me, and we're going to go feed the dog. So you physically are doing that with them, and this is especially true like with K through 5. The younger kids, they need that instruction and somebody to model that. Be patient. It takes time to change a habit. So what I would say, let's go back to the example of my kids using they're playing video games for an hour and a half, and I want to drop it down to 45 minutes. Don't make that an overnight thing. Don't say, well, tomorrow we're going to stop down to no. I wouldn't do that. Say, here's the goal. The goal is by Halloween that you've backed down to an hour, and then by Thanksgiving we're right where we want to be, because it throws people into shock when you have a big dramatic change like that. So just say like, I'm going to start putting a timer out, and today you get an hour and a half, tomorrow you get an hour and 28 minutes, the next day you get an hour and 27 minutes, and you just start gradually shaping it back, and it just takes time to practice that behavior. So again, you don't want to like throw our kids into shock by making these huge sweeping changes overnight. Praise yourself or your child for putting forth effort. And so what that means is like, let's say that you say, okay, remember we're cutting back on the Xbox time tonight. You're going an hour and a half. Tonight's the night you go an hour and 20 minutes. And so they have to shut it off. So it's coming an hour and 20 minutes, and they're fast and furious, and you're like, they're not going to do it on their own. And so you come over and say, remember, here's the deal. Like today, you only get an hour and 20 minutes. So, and remember, I told you I'm going to shut it down. So you can shut it down now on your own, or I'm just going to unplug it. And they're going to, come, you can't, blah, they're going to throw a fit about it because you're rocking their world. But then you do it. And then just after that, it's tempting to say like, I don't know why you have to throw a fit. Like I told you, it's tempting to be angry. But if you can find a way, hold on, if you can find a way to praise yourself or them, like, hey, we did it. It wasn't easy, but we did it. Good job. Maybe tomorrow will be easier. And celebrate every sign of progress. Just thank them, appreciate them, let them know, like, thank you for your work. It's awesome. So again, these are all examples of replacement behaviors. You can go for a walk, you can play with toys, you can draw, you can write, you can call a friend, you can read, you can play blocks, Legos, whatever it might be. Okay. From bad habit to possible addiction, when does that happen? Well, if a habit is so strong that it negatively impacts your child's emotion, negatively impacts their academic achievement, negatively impacts sleep, other activities or social relationships, that's a problem, especially. So, some parents say to me like, hey, Adam, my kid is on their Xbox 4 hours a night. And I say, okay, well, how is your child's relationship with you and the family? Well, it's great. I mean, he's not mean or anything. Okay, well, do you get to spend time with him? Yeah, well, I mean, over the weekends, and we have certain times where we're together, and it's great. Well, does he have friends? Yeah, he's on. In fact, he plays video games with his friends online. Great. Howard's great. Straight A's. He's doing really well. He's killing it. Extracurricular activities. Does he play like football, basketball? Does she play soccer? Yeah, well, it's all good. In that case, man, I'd say give him the 4 hours, because he's showing you or she's showing like, hey, I can manage my life. I'm doing fine. I'm sleeping okay. I'm eating okay. I'm taking care of business. And if I want 4 hours, then I get 4 hours, And not every kid fits that profile, but if your kid is doing well and they want their 4 hours, then I would go ahead and give it to them. But it's when you start seeing like, nope, you're grumpy with me. You're not engaged with the family. You're neglecting your friends. Your grades are slipping. You're not sleeping at night. When you wake up, you're grumpy. then it's like, okay, it's time to cut back. It's time to cut back. So that's just to give you a sense of when to be concerned. Okay, so let's go forward. Supporting good habits, saying thank you, and please, these are social, emotional habits. For them to say please and thank you, that's a good thing to reinforce. Using a clear tone of voice, making eye contact, picking up after. I mean, these are all just basic social skills that go a long way. Um, and then negative, expecting things, demand, give it to me. Where is it? I told you I want that. Whining, like, come on, you said you were, blah, blah, that kind of stuff. Leaving things everywhere, not taking ownership. Those are all. And so what I would do on this is I would say on the negative behavior, like if they demand or they're whining or their room is trashed out, I would say, if you want to play Xbox, take care of these things right here. As soon as you get your room picked up and you get your homework done and you're not whining at me, and you can ask me in a clear voice saying, may I please play my Xbox? Then cool. Yeah, you can do it then, but you got to do all that other stuff first. I'm not going to let you play Xbox if your room is trashed out, you're not doing your homework, and you're going to be whiny and complaining with me. No way. So that's kind of how you shape that behavior. These are more social emotional, learning to wait, cultivating patience, that especially for younger kids, being kind to yourself, like when kids say, oh, I'm an idiot, I'm a loser. Like, no, we don't want to, no, don't say that, observing what they have and cultivating when they, like, man, I wish I had a new Xbox, mine's old. I wish I had a new bike, mine's old. Well, hey, at least you got one, at least you got a bike. Express gratitude for that, and then some negative ones, more trouble waiting in line, putting themselves down, wanting more, the newest, the latest, and the greatest, what's called shiny object syndrome. Those are some negative habits. And then these are just big picture. These habits impact our health physically, mentally. They impact our social emotional functioning, how well we develop friends and keep friends, and then our academic career. Like all these things we talk about link back to these big time outcomes. Okay. So in conclusion, we got about 5 minutes left. We start forming habits at an early age. Kids start figuring that out, what's expected of them. And many of our kids' habits are formed by observing those closest to them, AKA the adults at home and the siblings at home and the adults at school and the classmates at school. As parents, we have much influence over the kinds of habits our kids adopt by what we model and then by what we shape, the behavior that we shape. And it's important to be mindful of the kinds of habits we want to transmit to our kids. What do we want them to practice so that it's they don't even have to think about it anymore? It's never too late, man. Even for teenagers, it's never too late to modify or replace a bad habit. Earlier is easier, but it's never too late. And then by helping our kids form good habits, we set the stage toward better health and a better life. So these 40% of these behaviors, they're going to impact how our kids live their lives. And so we want to jump in early with that. All right. So that is how to form good habits in a nutshell. Now, I want to go to the Q&A here. I'm going to play this music. I call this question asking music. That's the thinking music right there, the Jeopardy theme song. I hope you can hear that. What questions do you have for me? Like, Adam, what would you do if? What do we do when? Adam, can you tell me why blank, blank, blank? I don't know how to blank. Okay. Played through the Jeopardy song. And I'm not seeing any. Oh, there's a question in the Q&A. I said Q&A. What can I do when my 7-year-old is constantly whining? Well, the first thing I would do if my 7-year-old was constantly whining is, in a calm moment, not when they're whining, but in a calm moment, I would define for my 7-year-old whining. And I would say, hey, little Adam, do you know what whining is? Nope. And then maybe they'll say whining. Yeah, that's when I go get water out of the backyard. And you say, nope, that's not it. Whining, it's when you talk like this and you say, Dad, come on, Dad, why can't I do? And your shoulders drop and your face gets like this. That's called whining. Okay, so What is whining? Oh, it's when I do. So you define the behavior so they know exactly what you're talking about. And then say, hey, do you ever whine, little Adam? Nah, not me. I never do that. And say, oh, okay. Well, I beg to differ because when you go to bed, you whine, Dad, why do I have to go to bed now? I see you doing that thing called whining. Okay. So here's the deal, little Adam. Um, that's not going to go well for you in life. And my job as your parent is to help you do something different. So, like right now, the way I'm talking to you, am I whining? Hopefully, your kid will say, nope, you're not whining. Great. That's how I want you to talk to me. So, it's okay to say, I don't want to go to bed now. But don't say it like that. I don't want to go to bed now. Just say, Dad, I don't want to go to bed now. Mom, I don't want to go to bed now. So, just say it. You can say it, but just say it differently. So, whining is really just about the way you're saying stuff. Okay. So, that would be it. Is number one, make sure they understand what whining behavior is. Number two, make sure that they understand your job is to help them not do that. You can still say what you want to say, but just don't do it like that, right? And then, so that evening when I don't want to go to bed, you say, oh, look at that, you're doing that thing called whining again. Let's practice that real quick. Say, Dad, I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to say it that way. Then I would say this. Okay, I'll tell you what. If you say it the right way, I'll give you an extra minute. What? Yeah, just say I don't want to go to bed, and I'll give you an extra minute to stay up. Okay, I don't want to go to bed. Great, starting right now. Extra minute. What do you want to do? And that's how you start reshaping and reinforcing the behavior, little at a time, little at a time. Awesome. Great question. How should I be handling my 8-year-old when I have to take things away and he gets overly emotionally and angry? Should I ignore the behavior and not respond? I also have a 2-year-old. So it's great that you're thinking about your 2-year-old. And then what you do with your 8-year-old is you say, look, man, I don't blame you for being angry. I get angry when I don't get what I want. I get angry when people take things away from me. Man, perfectly okay to be angry. But you can't kick, you can't spit, you can't cuss, you can't start dropping F-bombs, you can't destroy property. Here's what these are all the things you can do when you're angry. You can take deep breaths and say, I'm mad, I'm mad, I'm mad. That's great. Go to your room and do that. That's perfectly fine. You can go tear up a piece of paper and throw it in the trash. You can go into your closet and shout at the top of your lungs into your shirts, I'm so mad right now. I don't want to do this. Okay. But you can't be dropping F-bombs. You can't be punching me or hitting me or kicking me or anything like that. So you let them know it's okay to feel the emotion, but you just give them different ways to express the anger in ways that are not inappropriate. Any tools for talk back, arguing about consequences and not reflecting upon negative behavior? Well, I wouldn't, depending on how old the child is, I wouldn't ask them to reflect on negative behavior because that could be a hard problem even for adults. So I would start with the arguing and the talking back. So what I think the best way to handle that is, you say, okay, it's 9 o'clock, time for bed. It's not 9. My clock says it's 8:30. Well, we're going by my watch. Well, we never said we were going to go by your watch. Well, I'm saying it now. Well, you didn't say that earlier. Well, I still have 30 minutes. Well, you never said 9 o'clock anyway. You said it was 9:45. I remember we were driving home and they start doing that and they turn into lawyers. Just in the conversation and just say, no, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm turning around. I'm ending the conversation. You need to go to bed now. And if they keep arguing, then I'm going to say, look, I'm going to set a clock, set a timer. You're going to be in bed in 2 minutes or you're not. And if you're not, these are going to be the consequences, and then they keep talking and just turn away and walk away. And if they follow, go and say, I'm going to go put myself in the restroom right now and don't follow me in there because we're not doing this. And so you physically make it not possible for them to argue with you. And even if they argue with you, then just turn on music in the bathroom, listen to a podcast, do whatever, and come out and then, move it the next way. And then if you're co-parenting, if you happen to have another adult, ask for their support for you in that. But the most important thing is again, when they're not arguing and when they're not angry, that's really the best time to deal with it. When they're calm, when you're driving to work or not work, but you're driving to church or Walmart and everything's good, everybody's having fun, you're just eating a meal, everything's calm. Say, hey, do you know what arguing is? Nope. What is it? Well, it's when I say something and you talk back to me. I never do that. Yeah, actually you do. No, I don't. Well, see, you're doing it right now. Right. And so, oh, that's what argue. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the deal. That's not cool. That's not going to get you far in life, you know? And I love you. I'm your parent. And my job is to make sure that you're set up for success. And arguing is a bad habit that it's not going to play. So I want you to know that's what arguing is. And when I say stop arguing with me, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So what can we do differently? You know, problem solve with the kid. You know, do you want to write it down? If you want to write me a letter about why I'm wrong, do that. At least that way they're practicing writing skills. And so, but you do that in calm moments. Too often, as a parent, I made the mistake of trying to problem solve in the heat of a conflict. And nobody's in a good brain when you're in the heat of a conflict, when you're arguing. That's not the time to figure out how not to argue. The time to figure out how not to argue is when nobody's arguing. And then the thing is, when nobody's arguing, you're not thinking about arguing. That's kind of the catch 22 about it. So that's what I would do. Excellent question, man. Y'all are awesome. Hey, listen, thanks so much for logging on tonight. Just the fact that you're on this call in the evening, it says so much about how much you love your kids and your desire to support them. If you found this helpful, here's what I would ask. Could you please let your other parents know, your other parent friends, that, hey, man, I watched this video with this guy, Adam. He talked about setting rules. You should watch it. We're recording this and we're going to send it out to everybody. So let people know. And let me also say this. I'm not getting paid to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was up in Lapeer back in August working with the faculty on campus. And I just have to say, man, they love your kids. They really do. There were just so many great teachers that are wanting to do right by your kids. They want to love your kids and serve them and impart the great habits that they know will serve them the rest of their lives. So I just want to give you that feedback. And I'm all over the country working with school districts, and that's not always the case. You have teachers, sometimes faculty and campuses, and they don't want to be there and they don't like the kids. I wouldn't tell you that. I wouldn't say like, hey, guess what? I was up there and these teachers hate your kids. I wouldn't say that, but I wouldn't lie to you and say, oh, they love your kids, unless I really sense that. And I really did sense that. So I just want to give you that feedback. Awesome. We have another session lined up. I'm not sure when it is, but we'll do another 30-minute session together. Look forward to being with you. Happy September. Happy fall semester. Keep doing great work. And I'm going to turn it over to this, and we will go out on that slide right there.